Hello, and welcome to Talking with Trailblazers. I'm your host, Kendra Losee. I'm excited to be here with you all today. And today we are going to be talking about the importance of creating your CBD products that your consumers can trust. And what does that mean? A lot of people think that trust just comes from having a good product, but there's more than just creating and manufacturing a good product. There's how you communicate it, just starting with the packaging and the labeling and all of those things. And so, to help us talk about this today, we have our guest, Merril Gilbert, from the co-founder and CEO of TraceTrust. Love Merril. Welcome. How are you doing today? Oh, Merril, you're muted.
I was trying to listen to you and then got all caught up. Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's great to always be with you and always to talk about a subject that is so complex and yet necessary and also ever changing in the world of legal access. So it's perfect timing.
Absolutely. And I think it's always interesting because we get so caught up in the product and the benefits and educating people that there's things that we forget about or that aren't, they don't have quite the sizzle as some of the other pieces. And I think a lot of that comes into the rules and regulations and those things that are absolutely necessary for us to know about. Um, as we
So
get
true.
as we get started, can you share your background with everybody for people that might not be familiar with
Mhm.
who you are and what you do over at Trace Trust?
Yeah, so we founded TraceTrust back at the end of 2015, actually launched in 2016. But my co-founder and business partner, Rhiannon Wu, and I come from extensive backgrounds in the food and beverage industry. And her side is on science, food safety, and manufacturing. My side is on operations from if you want to grow it, put it on a plate, put it on a box, put it on a shelf. Anywhere along that, I've touched those products and worked with companies. And you're going to excuse me 1 second as I cough here. Sorry, allergy season kicking in.
No worries, we all have them.
So back to that. So anyways, we came together and realistically at that point in time, it was really we're going to be making beautiful plant-based edibles. We saw the legal market and recreational happening here in California, and we knew that it would be just a matter of time before it rolled to other states, and then quickly realized that so much was changing rapidly, particularly in sources, materials, and processes, and identifying how actually to make products that were effective, but also destigmatizing what that experience was going to be. And we took a step back and said, the biggest risk to the industry is unpredictable experiences. You're going to have a lot of people, all different age groups. You're going to have coming in for different reasons: health, wellness, relaxation, fun, sleep, all of these things, and not understand what that was about. And that's where we said, let's just do what we do best, and that's make products. From formulation into commercialization, but we also really felt like the consumer overall was going to need a way of identifying those products. And we also knew that, yes, there's demand for every single thing to be tested, but what does that really mean in the world of cannabis and CBD even more so, which we have learned over these last 2 years. And so we created a True Dose and HGMP, which are very similar certification audit, third-party audit, like you would have for certified organic or non-GMO or B Corp, right? So they very much look at the life cycle of a product. We look at all sources of ingredients, so not just where the cannabinoid's coming from, but everything else that is in that product. We look at what the label says, and then how easy is that to understand. How accurate is it? Are there any claims that are being made on there? And then if you open that package, can you actually understand what you're supposed to administer to get whatever the desired result is? And in part of that is that lab standardization, right? So again, you have in every state. You have all kinds of labs coming into this. Some have come from food and beverage, some have come from pharmaceutical and nutraceutical world, some have not. And even though they have proprietary means, there is so much variance in how the tests are being done. So we're working very closely, and particularly now with an organization here in California on the beverage side, but really helping identify what those standard testing methods are, particularly when we talk about things with low concentrations of the cannabinoid process in there. So that is the work we do. We really are making edibles credible every day.
And it's so important because I don't know about those of you watching, but especially more so, like you notice it more with THC products, right? Like if you take one and it's one way and you get the experience, and then that's what you expect when you take them all or all of the rest, not all at the same time. But, we all know that if you do one edible one day and then you get another container, it could be totally different effect because nothing's consistent in terms of the product manufacturing. So it's nice.
Well, it's not just that. So, when you're in a state and you can control everything in that state, you do over time build a profile for that product and are able to make sure that it is replicable time and time again. When you go to another state carrying your brand with you, now it's trickier, right? Because you don't always have the access. But today's conversation, just to kind of backtrack and talk about specifically CBD and hemp and hemp versus, cannabis, these are very tricky things. And so one of the things I want to just kind of remind people is where we ended 2020 and where we're at in 2021. Perfect. So one of the things that's always important to note is we have no FDA approval. We have no USDA approval, and we have the FDA and the DEA fighting with each other because you have this synthetic pharmaceutical cannabinoid that they're trying to control and then block everything else under this. And so because there is no what we call GRAS, GRAS, which stands for generally recognized as safe, we don't have any of those call outs in specifics to CBD. They're trying. The USA, the hemp bill, and the farm bill address it. But we have seen so much confusion. And so there were a lot of things that were finalized in the last round of comments. That means that people, can come in and before anything passes into actual policy and moves up the chain. It's still confused. It's still not recognized in any of these supplements,
Merrill's
etc.
frozen.
And
there you are.
Because that threshold,
you froze for a second, but you're back on track.
Because there's a threshold, am I back? And because there's a threshold of this 0.03% THC, that's pretty hard, as I was just mentioning, to even figure out and detect. So you got a lot of product that gets thrown away because of this confusion. So one of the things that is in that last part of that comments was to move it to 1%, which really helps the industry as a whole. Mm-hmm. But now we have a new administration, and all of this is on hold while they get their, self settled and kind of see what's been done, get more information, and then move. So we're probably not going to see any changes until spring, summer, even being addressed in this. And then, when we talk about legalization, what do we think is going to happen also with a friendlier administration? I think the best things we can hope for in the next, 2 years is decriminalization and banking. Both would be helpful, right? Because that helps. So going back to the most important things that we're here to talk about is how do I build a safe product? How do I know what I'm getting? And where does all of this fit into the scheme of, making my business work and being profitable? So, one of the things that also has happened over the last 2 years and the huge acceleration in the marketplace is around product liability. So you saw back in 2018 and 19 a wave of CBD everywhere, in every drugstore, in every grocery store, at the gas station, at your spa, everywhere in between. And who knew where and what these products were for, how they were going to work. But what's nice about the other side of that is what we, and I would say the collective we of organizations like this, really bringing in much more of an atmosphere, not only of professionalism, but of skill sets, right? So as people, and this is the other thing that will really help move access into the forefront, is we're not only job creators, but we are also saving economies. We are also essential workers. We are it is a broad part of this, but we have to make products that actually do what they say they do. And we can't make any health claims. So we all, as much more studies are coming out and we are learning more, we still don't have the ability to say those things out loud, print those things on a label. So we have to focus our energy on a couple of things. So when I talk about product liability, it is because the insurance companies have woken up. The vape crisis shined a light on this around efficacy and saying the things, where are those sources of ingredients? So again, anybody can say this has CBD, but what we've also found is so much doesn't. And so we go into the fact that you have to be able to have a reliable supply chain. And that supply chain is really your source of whatever you're building your product from. And in this case, you want to be able to, if you're not growing it yourself and can verify all of everything from that seed to sale, then it's really hard because you're going to have to build trust with somebody else and their products and their oils. So it's really helpful to look for basic things, not just the certificate of analysis for the specific oil, but does that company have good manufacturing practices? Are they certified GMP? That's another service that we do, is we not only do risk assessments for you, but we actually provide the HGMP and GMP certification for your facility and help you identify facilities that have that.
Just in case the people watching, can you explain what GMP is?
Yes. So the GMP certification, again, these are very standardized. You do not sell anything into a grocery store. You don't sell anything, for cosmetics that don't have this kind of certification. And this looks at your business and your facility inside out. So literally and figuratively, we look at the facility from the inside, from the outside. We look at how you're training materials. We look at, everybody loves to download SOPs and say that word, but standard operating procedures actually have to be real. They have to be tangible and they have to be updated. And it has to apply to every piece of equipment. It has to provide, how your files are secured, what documentation, all your sources of ingredients in your supply chain. And that's when it comes in from your packaging and your raw materials out to finished goods out through the door in the distribution. And most importantly, back to product liability, back to insurance, is can you recall something instantaneously? Can you track that product all the way through if something happened to it? So that's what GMPs are. That's what product liability is.
And it's so important, and it's so crazy to me that there's an industry that's come up without all of these things in place, right? It's so fascinating how the industry and the space has grown organically, trying to catch up with some of the regulations the entire time.
I think that this is, one of the things that we have learned in the last year, and COVID-19 really, again, had us all have to wake up to. And this rollout of CBD and cannabis and everything else is the same system. And that is, without some unifying federal guidance, and you leave everything up to states' rights, you just get a cluster F, right, of scenarios. And every single time you go to do something, you're doing it, you're reinventing the wheel.
Yep.
And it's really taking again, professionals like ourselves, and not just the TraceTrust world, but I'm talking about the scientists and the lab people and the cultivators, and really, coming together in organizations and working collectively and collaboratively to move these things forward, and not just in the United States, but on an international basis, because the promise and the possibilities of this industry are phenomenal, and we are just at the beginning. And so it's a perfect time. It's the most, it's the last industry to come along where we have, I'm frozen again, diversity. And it does, and I mean truly, we have a really opportunity to build an equitable economy here, and a versatile and vibrant, but it all is about inclusivity, and also bringing those legacy, people that really broke the ground in this frontier for us forward, but also finally having access to the science and to the data and to the technology. And that's the other part of this, right? So back to, how do I make a product that is going to perform and be effective? We're now being able to identify, clearer, the CDNs and the Delta 8s and all these, because we've got this technology, and because we have people doing some amazing extraction methodologies, the whole nanotechnology that is revolutionizing the beverage industry, which really destigmatizes and gives access to more people everywhere. This is just thrilling, right? It's fascinating, it's thrilling, and I can't be more excited about it.
I love it. And I love that there's people who are passionate about the back end of things, like making sure all the pieces are in place and making sure that those products have that trust. Being a marketer and on the front end of things, I'm like, oh yeah, you guys already did that, right? Then there's so many things that go into it. I want to dial it down for a second, because one of the things that I see a lot of is beautiful packaging without a lot of information. Can you let us know, or can you share with us what the most common mistakes are that you see on packaging, on labels?
Yes, several things. So number one comes back to grasp, right? Making a claim that cannot be substantiated. And saying beautiful words around that, right? So
Yeah.
Examples of will help you lose weight, is a sleep aid, is a dietary supplement, will give you energy. You can hint at those things. You cannot claim those things, because there's nothing in there that you can point to that will actually do that, because you cannot have the label, this product has this much of this in it, and it could assist in relaxation, sleep, etc., right? So it's making a claim that's not true. The other is making it so it's so small and readable, or in a light colored font on beautiful, so it looks visually great, but you can't read it. Doesn't help tell your story, and doesn't help somebody pick up something and really understand what they're getting.
And trust it.
And trust it, right? And so then, we do know, here's something interesting, right? So again, I live a lot in the food world, and I live a lot in the natural and organic food world. And so, we were all thinking, gosh, is it just too much having all these little, seals and things on packaging? Does it resonate? Do people still care about it? Surprisingly, they do. And in our COVID world, even more so. So where my product comes from, who's behind it, how do I find out if it's true, and really sourcing everywhere. So again, packaging can be beautiful, but if you can't stand behind it, and if you don't have a digital presence that points to every aspect of that, if you don't have a real communication methodology for these things and a way to point to, here's the certificate of analysis, and There are some people that are killing it right now, right? Their products are just amazing, but they did their homework and they didn't just make them pretty. And I'm talking about, ingestibles. I'm talking about flour. I'm talking about cosmetics. I mean, we know a lot of these people that it wasn't just, I'm going to just jump into the CBD world and make tons of money. Like, no, I am making a product that's going to fit a need and fit a market, and I'm going to really spend the time and research to do it right. And yeah, it's going to look nice in the package too, because my brand really stands behind all of these things fitting nicely together.
Absolutely. And it's so important. I think there's so many elements of that people miss, of that proof, right? Because it's whether it's it's not social proof, which are people saying great things about you, but it's making sure that you have that proof that you've done your homework and that you've created a quality product that people can trust. And then how do you communicate out to them that you've done that? I see a lot of people that have taken the product and created it, or and created a great product, but they don't know how to communicate that other information out, or get the lab testing pieces, or some of those other things that really make it worthwhile and something you can trust.
It's so interesting because a lot of the front work that we do with a client, so we do formulation work. And we do, and more not because we're going to help you make that next best thing, but really taking that concept and that benchtop sample and commercializing it. How do I either self-produce that? What equipment would I need to set up, et cetera? Or how do I identify the co-packer that can help me create that? And particularly this becomes important, as I said, when you go state to state and sourcing materials. But before we kick off any single client, we do what we call an alignment meeting, and that alignment meeting really digs into what is this? Who are you trying to reach? When are they going to use it? How are they going to use it? What's it going to do over time? And how do you really validate that every step of the way? And then we help you figure those answers out. And we really give you a roadmap that whether you continue with us or not, you come back and you work with that marketing team, and you work with your formulation team, and you work, with your distributors and your retailers so that they all have the knowledge to best tell about yours, particularly when we're getting so much product data and really standing out. And eventually, as things move along, the bad actors will get pushed away, right? You'll know the difference between what you're buying at the grocery store and the more so the gas station versus a reliable retailer that you can trust.
Absolutely. I think it's really I've just seen so many bad products. We've all seen them. The gas station, on Amazon, that people don't know what they don't know, so they think that's fine, and that represents CBD. So then when they say it doesn't work, well, yeah, of course, because there wasn't any CBD actually in your CBD products. So making sure that you're creating products that can be trusted is just so critical. And then, like you said, communicating it out and how the different ways that they do that. What advice, because we're going to have to wrap up here in a couple of minutes, what advice do you have for someone who might have created a product and they're trying to get it out there, but they don't have some of these other things in place that you're talking about?
Well, they can come and spend, go to TraceTrust.com. There's a place you can sign up and you can get 15 to 30 minutes of my time just to tell me where you're at. And I can tell you, if we can assist or point you in the right direction. I'm really gracious with our network and sharing that. As I said, it's very collaborative to get us there. And then, the second part of that is particularly, for coming new into this market. One of the things that TraceTrust has created and that is launching at the beginning of March is a very operationally structured micro-learning platform. And we cover 4 topics. We cover cultivation, we cover supply chain, we cover manufacturing, and then business strategy, and not the marketing business strategy, but profitability. How do I actually make money in this new world order? and what does that entail? And so the cultivate, so it's skill-based and knowledge-based. They're about an hour each class. You can come in for one class, you can come in for a series, but it really helps you dig into what you're not necessarily having right in front of you to not only foster your business, but also to foster your career, because there are, certification programs that can help with that professionally as well. But it's really about, universally aligning on language. We're not there yet. We're so far from it, but, again, we're working collectively. It's unifying on, what is a reliable third-party auditor, an independent, what do I look for? And then if I'm looking for that co-packing relationship, what do I need to be asking there? Those things become extremely important, because these are all steps for building your future. And again, going back to liability.
Right. Avoid the liability as much as you can. I have a question for you. How important is it to get this certificate of analysis?
Huge. and it's not, again, this is that variable that I talk about, right? So identifying the right lab partner. So I think, when everybody's starting out, it's like shopping price, not necessarily the best approach. It's really about shopping a relationship. And you really want to build that, because again, you're building a product over time. And so these things are, sorry, there's
It's okay. It's so important what you're saying. They're like, yes, I agree. They've got it. They're like, she knows what she's talking about. The dogs are in agreement with the COAs.
Milo.
Don't worry about it. It's usually my dog, so they're just excited. They love the topic of COAs.
I know. I want to throw something at them. Of course, nothing I have is lightweight.
I've done that as well. That's okay. Don't worry about it.
I did. I just hit him on the head. Now he's like, what? Okay. Where were we? What was the COA? Certificate of analysis.
Yes.
And a lab partner. So the lab partner is really important, because you don't want to jump around. You really want, you can, ideally, in the best scenario, you can do some of that testing preliminary. And you want to test frequently. You don't want to just wait until your batch is done. You want to establish that early on with that lab, so that they can give you indicators quickly when things are off. On the back end of that, they also need, am I frozen again?
No, don't worry about it.
On the back end of that is, on the back.
I'm so glad I'm not the only one.
On the back end of that relationship is the fact that, they can, tell you when things are off ahead of time. The biggest expense that people unfortunately have had is having to throw away products. Yeah. And that avoided had they had that early on.
Yeah, for sure. If you can avoid that, like make those mistakes early, make them fast, and then get it dialed in, it's going to make it a much bigger effort. I know you've already told people where to go, but as we wrap up, first of all, Merril, I love talking with you, because I learn something new every single time, even if it's just a casual conversation, but especially today. So thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I want to give you one more chance to tell people where to find you and how to connect if they have any questions, or if they want to learn more for their own business and have and know that they need some help.
Okay, well, you can hit us up, obviously, in this group. We are members, and we also, as I said, can go to TraceTrust.com, info@TraceTrust.com. I am happy to answer questions, jump on a quick call with you, and share that network with you as well. You can always come and find me on LinkedIn and Instagram and Twitter, although you might not like my Twitter account, because, oh well. We're doing better.
Is it a little on the political side?
Yeah, it's a little dated. What can I tell you?
Yeah, I get it. I get it. Well,
But I'm
thank you.
happier. I'm like not obsessed now. So it's, life's moving on. We have
Perfect.
opportunities, and that's what's so exciting, right? I keep coming back to this, but never has there been a better time to explore this industry, to really come in and craft products that are meaningful and, have the effects that we are so wanting and needing, and know that plant medicine is a really an amazing place to be. So come on in.
Love it. I'm going to let Merril speak for herself. So thank you very much for being here. Thank you all for watching, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.